For those who know me, I like to live by the one house, one spouse rule. It seems fairly self explanatory, but just to give a little bit of indication into it, it basically means look, only get married once because divorce is expensive. So if you can, don't get divorced. It's going to be financially difficult and potentially ruinous. Although I understand if there are circumstances in which that's the right course of action for you. But the other side of this is only have one house. Again, the rule is one house, one spouse. Because we have a tendency in our country in particular to think that we need to have a starter home and then maybe a forever home and then a vacation home. And we got to change over and over and over again from one house to the next house. And even though that's great for real estate agents and really good for the mortgage lending industry, tends not to be such a great deal for the typical homeowner. Let's just talk a little bit about why that makes sense, especially with the one house. Mortgage interest rates or just mortgage rates, the way they are set up, like repaying a loan, it's set up where you pay the most interest at the start of the loan, and then it decreases over time. And so your payment, the interest that gets paid, decreases over time, and more money goes to principal. But effectively, on most loans, and most mortgages have a 15, 20, 30-year term is the common term length. You'll spend in that first 10 years on that 30-year term, you'll pay out almost 50% of what you would pay in mortgage interest in that first 10 years. And so it's lopsided where most of the cost of the loan is in the first portion of it. And so you're starting to win more and more and more as time goes along with the mortgage. Changing houses and moving things around means that you're just consistently bringing yourself back into the start of that mortgage payment where most of the interest is going to the bank. And so you're minimizing how much goes towards principal pay down, how much goes towards equity. And as much as people think that homeownership is a great win and we're just making money, it's like, well, yeah, you are, and you can, and that certainly can be a worthwhile pursuit. But you see it when you keep it for the long term. Like the break even tends to be, and this is the break even, is 5 to 7 years. If you actually don't live in the house for up to that period of time, you're actually going backwards. Now, specific to our situation, we have resided in this current home for 12 to 13 years, and this has without question been financially beneficial and worthwhile for us and a win over renting. So no regrets or concerns on my part for living in the home and having had an opportunity to give some stability to us and our finances, and to have a place that we call home. So definitely a sadness here in our household and family as we walk away from some of the memories that we've built here. But at the same time, we're excited and looking forward ahead to the future and the new home, and then resettling there. And I like to work on projects. My wife has quite the honey-to-do list. Honey-do list, I suppose, is what you call it, actually. And so I will, without question, stay busy at this new property for probably the next decade, doing things to fix it up and make it more our home. Although my wife does assure me that this time this will be our forever home. She simply loves the property and doesn't want to go anywhere else. And for a number of reasons, I think she's right. I think this will be our forever home. So we're walking away. If I'm honest, financially, this is probably not the most optimal decision. Like what would make the most sense is that we just stay in our current home. We make it work for what it is. We keep the great rate that we have on it, and we just continue on with our trajectory and continue to pay it down. And we're on pace that in a number of years, the house would just pay itself off according to the amortization schedule. So, and then we'd own the home free and clear and have just property taxes and insurance and not need to pay anything else. The mortgage would be gone. So, that I love that idea, just love it. But so it was difficult to look at the lower interest rate on our loan. And if you're not aware, the interest rates currently on mortgages are up quite a bit. So, let's just give some numbers. Our current rate, I think, is a 3.3265 or something along those nature. 3.3, we'll call it. Current rates are 6.8. We actually end up locking in at a little bit of the height of the latest rates. And so we're a little over 7%. So we're doubling our interest rate. Certainly has an impact in terms of the overall payment and the arrangement. And so there is kind of a question of like, are we being silly? am I making a big silly decision here? Is this dumb? Like, thankfully we're able to afford it, so it's not a question of affordability. That's thankfully something that's manageable with not a huge increase of a home, not a huge addition to principal or loan balance. So all that's fairly modest. But there's still the question of, like, why are we not trying to optimize our finances? And so what I would kind of want to wrap up with, I'll have another video specifically on how we intend to handle the higher interest rate and our plans to refinance and get that back down over time. But what I'd like to just touch upon is that financial decisions don't have to be optimal. They just don't. And in fact, it's kind of hard to make them optimal because there's a lot of unknown variables, and there's a lot of things that's just simply hard to quantify. A lot of hard things to convert into dollars and cents and say what this or that thing's worth. Now, we do have like these pressures, and we do have these abilities to estimate and guess. But at the end of the day, I mean, what something is worth tends to be more, especially things that are really important to us in our life, tend to have the price tag of priceless. It's priceless. And so we can't really put a value on it. It's whatever we are willing to really sacrifice at the end of the day to make it work. And so as much as this house has like a financial optimalness, and the shift to it doesn't, financially speaking, make the most sense. It's a great win. I love my wife, wonderful bride, happily married to her. So like, if this is what we need to do in order to keep things going, happy wife, happy life, then that's, I lesson learned. You've told me as much as I need to know. That's what we're going to do. Paying a little more and not having it financially optimized is going to be fine. I'll keep my focus on that relationship between the two. One house, one spouse. The more inexpensive decision ultimately would be the loss of the spouse through a divorce. So, and not to say that that's what we are really up against here, but still, let's stay invested in our relationships and see the value and the benefit they offer to us, and be willing, to yield a little when the time is right, when the time comes for it. So that is what we're navigating, this home decision, the last recording of this video here, the walking away from our memories, trying to figure out how to manage this interest rate, and maybe just kind of politely ignore the fact that the interest rate on the new home is a little higher than I would like it to be. And it does, kind of harken the question of just how aggressive we should be with the repayment. I'll go into all those details in another video with my current strategy on how to manage that. But yeah, perhaps if you find yourself in a situation where your home is starting to not fit your needs, I wouldn't advocate strongly for you to just up and move. We don't want to go from house to house to house. Like, you're not going to win, if you do that financially. But should you never move, you should strictly adhere to this one house, one spouse rule. Well, I suppose I'll leave that for you to decide. But I think it does make sense to move on if that's the right call. So shoot to be in your home for, let's call it 10 years. If you can, the longer the better. It really, like, again, financially, from an optimal perspective, staying in this house would make the more sense. But if you could at least get 10 years into a house, for sure, you're going to have come ahead in that arrangement than if you had stayed in it for just 3 to 5 years versus maybe renting throughout. So commit when you do buy a house. This would be the rule: is when you do buy a house, plan to be in it for a while and to continue to make it work for a while. But then, at a time, give yourself that permission to say, you know what, it's time to move on. It's worked well for us, but we're ready to move on to other things. And don't let the finances, even these higher mortgage interest rates, become that deciding factor. Life at the end of the day should have some fun and excitement and adventure to it. And so let life have those things. Let's have some fun. Let's have some excitement. Let's have some adventure. Let's not let these money things decide everything for us. Like, that's no fun. Come on. Money only does and accomplishes so much for any of us. And so, let's go and spice it up a little bit, one might say. So we are in this household spicing things up. We are, again, moving. Last time I'll be recording with this backdrop. I will miss it. It's something I built with my own hands, and I just love it. Hopefully you've enjoyed seeing it too. But such as a chapter in life. We are moving into the next chapter and looking forward to that future. So as my wife often likes to say, and I'll just kind of end with this, is onward and upward. Onward and upward, folks. Let's let that be the motto. Onward and upwards. So, hey, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, follow us in our social media, and sign up for the newsletter. We'd love to have your participation in it. We're looking to do great things here, and really would like to have you tag along and spread the word. If you think we're producing good content, tell others. It means a lot to me, and it'll help us do more good in the world, which is what we're seeking to do. So, folks, onward and upward. Signing out. Bye now.